Swami Vedahi, Anita Mataji for joining. This is the session 11 or the second last session amongst the 12 sessions for the book, The 4 Questions by His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu. We have read the first 3 questions. What is my purpose? How can I be of service? Then what is the lesson? Right? The universe is a classroom. And finally, what's the fourth lesson or the fourth question? Yes, Karina?
What am I investing my attention on right now?
Where am I investing my attention right now? Right now. So we are at the last question. We discuss about return on attention, return on investment. Attention goes, wherever attention goes, energy flows, right? We discussed that, deliberate to be deliberate, right? We have to, in order to pay full attention, we need to be deliberate about it, because if we let someone choose for us, then we cannot be deliberate. So the example is Vaisesika Buddhir from chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. Wherever the mind wanders, dhyayate vishayan pumsa, the energy goes, and then we want that. So we have covered all that, and even little investment will give a lot of result. Return on attention. So let's continue further from this topic. Who wants to read from here? Yes, Vidhi, you understand?
Hare Krishna, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. We learn from the wisdom text that the universe is comprised of 2 primary energies, inert matter and the conscious spirit, Atma. In the Gita 7.4-5, Krishna lists the inert material elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Superior to these, he says, are the conscious living entities whose consciousness animates this inert matter. The conscious living entity is covered by a gross and subtle body. The gross body is made of earth, water, fire, air, and ether, space. The subtle body consists of mind, intelligence, and false ego. The body is therefore made up of a hierarchy of gross and subtle matter. Lowest are the senses, above the senses is the mind, above the mind is the intelligence. It is the superior energy, Atma, that activates and animates the material body, gross and subtle. We are the Atma, or the conscious self, which is categorically different from and superior to all these gradations of gross and subtle matter. In the same vein, Patanjali Muni in his Yoga Sutras contrasts the seer, the conscious being, with the body and the mind. Without the conscious being, the body and mind are like dark, stained glass windows. But when the superior conscious being is within, the body and mind are illuminated and appear to be alive. In the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey writes, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. But what is the main thing, and where should we put our attention? Where will we get the best ROA? First, by self-realization, or perceiving that we are different from our material body. Second, by meditation on the Supreme. The Yoga Wisdom texts say that Krishna not only pervades the universe, but is also personally present as the Super Self within the heart of every individual living being. The wisdom literatures say that the Atma, or the individual conscious being, and the super spirit are like 2 birds living in the same tree. Patanjali Muni says that a yogi can at once bypass the lower stages of self-realization by meditating on the super self. In the Gita, we also learn that the best of all yogis is the one who, out of love, bhakti, fixes their attention on the super self. Hare Krishna.
Very well. Who can tell which verse is that? The best of all yogis. Chapter 6, last verse. Who knows? Vedeshu yagyeshu tapasu. Now you can tell. Amongst all the yogas, the best yoga is Bhakti Yoga. The verse in chapter 6. Okay. Yes, Avni? Sorry, Vedi.
The last verse is that yoginam yoginam api sarvesham madgatenantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam samyuktamo mataha.
Very nice. So this is the reference here in the 647. Of all the yogis, the Bhakti yogis, one who is absorbed in Bhakti is the best, as per the Supreme Lord Himself. So what's the key takeaway here in this section? The main thing? What's the key point? What is the main thing? The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And what is that main thing? Yes, Vedi?
To meditate on the Supreme Lord.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, we're not just gross matter, right? That's not the main thing. The body is not the main thing. The body is, we have to take care of the body, but it's secondary, tertiary. The main thing is Atma, soul. And to what is the goal? What is the purpose of that? Atma. That's the main thing. Body is just a covering. Like, what is the main, like if a person is driving a car, is the car important or the person important? Right? The person is more important because the person has to go to the destination. The car is just a medium which helps the person to get to the destination. Right? So the main purpose is the car, and that car is the Atma. Next topic, let's read. Akshay, Prabhu.
Your level of contentment depends on your content. The wisdom texts explain that the subtle or psychological body, as described above, comprises three elements: the mind, manas, the intellect, buddhi, and false ego, ahankara. These elements combine to form a sort of digital cloud or stored space. Impressions from our senses are stored in our subtle body. These impressions, called samskaras, are Latin, but can be brought to our awareness just as we bring up an old photo on Google Drive. All our sensory experiences in this life and in previous lifetimes are stored within the subtle body, which we take with us when we go to a new gross body.
Very well. Just a side comment or lesson, you see, like how Prabhu is writing. So it's the common theme across the writers using catchy phrases, right? Deliberate to be deliberate. The main thing is to keep the main thing. Some poetic, your level of contentment depends on your content. The power of words, you see, how the words have been used, content, deliberate to be deliberate. Your attitude determines your altitude. So for those who like to write or maybe writing in future, I think these things certainly help to kind of grasp our attention, to kind of the message goes deeper. So use them in your writing. It will very helpful and make your writing stand out. Use some poetic phrases, use some metaphors, use some things, use the power of numbers, right? Okay, just a side thought. Yes, actually, you can continue.
That's why every one of us has unique predispositions and natural talents which were developed even before we were born. Every impression we take in through our senses affects what we do, say, and think. In other words, the way we move around this world has consequences. Sequence that happen as a result of our activities. This is what is called karma. I do something and there is a consequence. A resultant sequence of events that unfolds over time. Ancient yogis were extremely careful about what they allowed into their consciousness through their senses. They didn't allow degrading impressions to nest within their minds. In this regard, as noted by one commentator, the yogis realized that their minds were as sensitive as eyeballs. Consider how the eyes are two of the most delicate surfaces on the body, irritated by the touch of even a tiny strand of hair. Meditators and yogis today retain an awareness that whatever we allow to enter a consciousness will remain and have a lasting effect. They're careful, therefore, about what they allow to enter and are deliberate about keeping their minds free of rubbish. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Any comments here? What's the takeaway? Adar, what did you get from this?
I'm not sure, Boji.
Sure. Okay, Avani?
He's basically saying that whatever we put into ourselves, like whatever we like see, hear, like all that stuff, it like stays with us for a long time and it can go into like our gross body, I think, or subtle body. And that's what moves
Consciousness,
on
yeah.
with us. Yeah.
Very good. So your contentment depends on the content, right? If you're whole day watching, let's say, advertisements about the new iPhone 16, guess what will happen? Our desire to get that, will it go up or it will go down? It will go up. And let's say our friend gets it. Will we be happy? Oh, our friend has iPhone 16. I don't have. We'll be happy or miserable? We'll be miserable. Why? Because we chose to let those content go into our consciousness. How does the content go inside? How does the content go inside? Tell me, we read what's the most delicate organ as per the eyes, right? How many of you felt a small hair irritating until it gets out, right? So the body is said to be the city of dash gates. How many gates are there in the body? How many gates are there? the city of 9 gates. There are some incoming gates and there are some outgoing gates, right? One-way traffic, right? So the body is a city of 9 gates, right? And primarily we intake through our eyes, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, and then the 2 gates at the bottom, right? Below the waist, through which we excrete and pass urine, right? So those 2 are the exit gates, and the up are basically the incoming gates. So we have to be very, very cautious of what we are intaking. We can intake through our ears, we can intake through our mouth, the food we eat, right? Are we eating prasad? Are we eating tamasic food? Are we eating rajasic food? It will determine our samskaras, impressions, the kind of thing we are smelling, but most importantly, the kind of things we are watching. So we have to be careful in what we watch. We have to stay away from degrading things, rubbish. In these day and age, there is very easy access to bad content, adulterous content, pornography, bad music, bad things, and we have to be very careful, because this is the age where a lot of kids get into these bad habits of watching bad content. We have to be very, very careful, because it may appeal in the beginning, but it's going to do a lot of damage to our physical health, our emotional health, and our whole life will become degraded if we get into those things. So very, very important to be mindful, right? The yogis are mindful of what the city of 9 gates. In your home has some gates. How many gates the home has? Maybe 2, 3, right? Depends, right? Maybe there's a garage gate, there is an entrance gate, maybe there's a back door, right? Maybe about 2, 3, 4 average, right? Every home has gates. And what do we have at the gates? Generally, people have cameras to monitor who is coming in, who is going out, right? So we have to also monitor that these gates, we don't let bad content seep in. Otherwise, will we allow a thief to enter our house knowingly? Will we allow a dacoit to enter our house? No. We'll say, no, stay away. I'm not going to open the gate. The moment we know, no, this is not the person who is safe to be allowed in. This is not the content to be allowed in. Even if accidentally, there are a lot of things which we may accidentally see, like a billboard with some, inappropriate thing. We don't have to meditate upon that. The Ajamil story, all of you know, right? Ajamil also saw some inappropriate thing, but he was meditating upon it. That's why it led to problem. Even if we accidentally happen to see something which is not good, we can quickly turn away our attention, right? Quickly close the door, don't meditate upon it. And then that's going to be very helpful for us to stay away from rubbish. It will have a lasting effect, right? Any comments? Okay. Atar, you can read the next part.
Okay.
You got a haircut?
Yes, Prabhuji, I got a haircut.
That's why looking like a star. Okay, please read.
Still, as long as we are in this world, we have to work and interact with it. It is hardly practical or desirable to shut out or ignore the world or loving relationships we have with people in it. Nor is it possible to completely avoid environments fraught with negativity and lower vibrations. So, how does one fortify oneself from being influenced by negative energies? Those who daily engage in spiritual practice are content because they enjoy pleasure within. They understand that everything has a relationship with the Supreme and that everything is meant to be used in services to the Supreme. With such a service attitude, feeling full in themselves, they move about the world without being disturbed by even the most agitating sights and sounds. In contrast, those lacking such inner fulfillment are like consumers who shop when they are hungry or restless. Bewildered by unlimited choices, they indiscriminately buy whatever they don't need, often things that are bad for them. Persons who daily, especially as dawn breaks, connect with the divine through bhakti yoga feel contentment and inner strength. When we meditate on sublime mantras, read elevated books like the Bhagavad Gita, hear from the sadhus, and dedicate our work to the Supreme, we become fulfilled. Armed with such a higher taste, we naturally forgo the non-essential and are able to make wise, discriminate choices. I recently attended a memorial service for one of my best friends from high school. After the ceremony, I conversed with the other attendees, some of whom were drinking wine. I noticed that the more they drank, the less able they were to understand subtle concepts. For example, one of my old high school teachers, knowing that I had joined a monastery after my junior year, asked me about the course of my life and the philo- philosophy I was following. I explained to her the concept that we are not we are not our physical bodies, but spiritual beings. Initially, she had a keen interest and was beginning to resonate with the concept. But the more wine she consumed, the less she could process our conversation. She had embraced the lower energy of alcohol. I was simply observing and marveling at how this lower energy was working. I thought, be careful what you feed your mind. Hare Krishna.
Very well. Thank you, Dr. Prabhu. What's the takeaway?
It was basically telling us we shouldn't be consuming the lower energy material things. And it also gave us an example of how one of his classmates or the teacher, basically he was trying to tell her about Krishna consciousness. But as she drank wine and got lower and lower, she started to not understand
Mm,
the concept of Krishna consciousness. And yeah, so it just tells us to stay away from the degrading things. And yeah, Hare Krishna.
thank you. Bhagavad Gita, important verse fits in this connection. 728. Ye Shamtavantagata papam jananam punya karmanam. Te dvanda moha nirmukta bhajanti mam vrata. Persons who have acted piously in the previous lives and in this life, whose sinful actions are completely eradicated and are free from the dualities of delusion, they engage themselves in my service. So it's not easy for someone to take the path of bhakti. It's very hard. Why? Because of the choices we have made and are making. The example of wine was shared here, right? So basically, we have to. Will we eat anything, right? Think about. Will you go to any food court and eat whatever is there, or will we be careful of what we would eat? Is it made with good ingredients? Is it good for my body, for my health, right? Is the person, the quality, the consciousness, you'll see a lot of factors. Similarly, for the body, the food we intake, we're very careful. But are we careful of what we are intaking through the the other senses. And if we intake good spiritual, right, the few things mentioned, Bhagavad Gita, chanting, the morning dawn, hearing from sadhus, these things will uplift us to understand higher philosophy. If we intake lower things, our mind will all become dull. We won't be able to understand subtle matter. Any comments? Does Anita Mataji have a comment?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yeah. Yes, I just wanted to share reflection, or realization that I had after coming to Krishna consciousness. And yeah, so the content just we read, it is very much resonating with what I have gone through. Like when I had fixed my routine of doing the certain number of the japa rounds, I started feeling that now I don't have time, and consequently, like fixing all other activities that we do in the morning as part of the Mangal Aarti or all the other stuff. I started feeling that now I am so busy in good stuff, and it is making such a big difference. So earlier, like I used to have those free times, and what I used to use in just call a friend and then do gossiping, and then at the end of the day have a restless mind and not able to follow the routine that I want to follow. Like I want to have sleep early, get up early. This is like I had that desire from long time, but since I didn't have a better formula, something like well proven formula, I was not able to do it. But now I find myself most of the time I am doing something that is really meaningful, and I am really peaceful now. Like now I can manage my routine, and the way I want to, the time I want to sleep, the time I want to get up, it's like more under control. So this is very much resonating with, and real time experience that I have gone through. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, absolutely. This is like formula given by the Supreme Lord and all the sages in the past, the holy books, right? Meditate on the mantras, the Hare Krishna sadhus. Read Shastras, associate with the sadhus. Dedicate our work for the Supreme. We become fulfilled. I mean, like 2 + 2 has to be 4. If someone says 2 + 2 is 5, they are making a mistake. It's not 2 + 2's mistake, it's their mistake. They're not applying it correctly, or they have not understood the basic. 2 + 2 is always going to give 4, whether you're in Russia, America, India, or when you go to anywhere. It's like these are axiomatic truths. They will not change. If someone does that sincerely with selfless agenda, it is going to work 108%. And there are not just 1 or 2, there are countless proofs. Okay, Ricky and his mice. Yes, Vinita, you want to read?
As the saying goes, we are what we eat. Similarly,
Any thoughts on this picture? Any comments? What is there? Yes, Atar, Karina.
So with the second person, he's like trying to go for the material objects, but like thinking that it'll help him find a place in his heart. But really, all it does is just like it doesn't do anything. But with the first guy, he like sees Krishna, and he doesn't want any material things, and he's content on what he has. And
Wow.
yeah, Hare Krishna.
Were you standing next to them? Looks like. You're like a story director. Awesome. Good job. Yes, Karina?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. One thing I noticed about this picture was that for the inner hunger, the one looking for like all the material stuff, he looks like worried and like he doesn't look like he's okay. He doesn't look like he's happy. But like for the inner fulfillment, he looks like happy, he looks fulfilled, he looks like genuinely okay.
Happy, peaceful, because they are one who's self-satisfied, right? Atmaram, because they have pure love of God and pure love towards all living beings. You see this tiny love symbol here? So, Krishna Prema. Those who are hungry inside, no matter they get whatever, they will not be happy. Okay, let's continue.
The mind transforms according to what we feed it. For his fifth grade science fair project, another of my childhood friends, Ricky Masano, wanted to test the importance of what we eat. He fed one mouse junk food and another mouse the same amount of nutritious food. After 3 months, the mouse who ate the junk food looked like a skinny runt. The well-fed one looked like an Olympic athlete. That's how the mind is. If we feed our mind with low vibrations, negative thoughts, and petty desires, it becomes malnourished. But if we fortify it by adopting a healthy spiritual diet, regularly feeding it spiritual sound in the form of mantra and wisdom, the mind becomes strong.
That's very powerful. So as we discussed, the food for body and the food for mind, you have to be careful in both, right? Junk food versus healthy food. So junk thoughts, rubbish thoughts versus healthy thoughts. Okay. Karina?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Get absorbed in transcendental topics. One of the great secrets of refining the intelligence is that we all have the innate ability to choose what we allow to enter our subtle body through the senses. The wisdom literature describes a hierarchy of 3 modes of nature called gunas, which produce the unlimited varieties of forms that condition us in various ways. Just as an artist or a color printer combines the 3 basic colors, blue, red, and yellow, to produce unlimited colors, the modes of nature, which are like three-dimensional colors, the modes of nature, which are like three-dimensional colors, mix to create all the material forms of this world. The modes are always in flux, and the mind is dominated at every moment by a particular mode based on the things that we choose to feed it. In this way, a proportionate level of intellectual refinement is established accordingly. The Gita 13.22 explains that our involvement in good or bad situations in the world is due to our association with material nature. How we invest our attention determines our direction and our fortune. Therefore, the mind must be refined so that it can be a proper medium to absorb enlightened thoughts. In another verse, the Gita says that one's mind can be one's best friend or worst enemy. Obviously, it's preferable to make the mind our best friend. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Who can tell this verse from Bhagavad Gita? Yes. Avani, Prasad, Mataji.
It's in chapter 6, I know. I'm forgetting the verse number. I think it's the 6th verse, maybe.
Yes.
Bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmevatmanajita vinatmanasu shatrutve vertitatmeva shatruvat.
Wonderful. Excellent. You get the Scholar of the Day award. So, again, about feeding the mind, right? You have to be very cognizant. Ansh Kapoor, you want to read? Who has not read yet? Avani? Yeah, please.
The 3 modes of nature. The wisdom texts explain the details of how the 3 modes of nature affect us. Goodness, Satogun, is the modality of light, virtue, wisdom, truth, and clarity. When we live a sattvic way of life, we remain determined in the face of success or failure because we work from a sense of duty, not for material gain. Furthermore, we are open to hear spiritual topics and we naturally see the unity of living beings. In Sattva, we are truthful, tolerant, and self controlled, peaceful, and content. In the mode of goodness, we see that everything has the same original source and that we are all part of that source. The Rig Veda explains this Sattvic perspective. Truth is one, though the wise refer to it in various ways. Persons in Sattvagun have unbreakable firmness of purpose because they are not attached to the results of their work. They also feel the natural happiness that comes from doing selfless service as an offering to the Supreme. Thus, they work more conscientially than a person motivated by greed and get higher quality results. The mode beneath Sattva is Rajas or passion. The Bhagavad Gita lists the symptoms of a person influenced by Rajas: attachment to trivial things, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering for name, fame, and material achievements. Those driven by Rajas see only the superficial bodily differences of living beings. They're prejudiced against and antagonistic toward those who look different or think differently from them. There are all kinds of isms in the world: racism, nationalism, speciesism, and so on. They all stem from Rajas, which puts us at irreconcilable odds with one another. Persons in Rajas are attached to the results of their work. They are greedy and affected by success and failure. Their determination wavers. If rewarded, they're happy. If not, they quit. The lowest of the three modes is tamas, or ignorance. The symptoms of tamas are laziness, cheating, foolishness, procrastination, fearfulness, and moroseness. Those influenced by tamas are asleep spiritually. Their minds are attracted by and become attached to dogmatic theories based on fear, speculation, and conspiracies. They're infamous for their expertise at insulting others.
Three modes, right? Everyone is familiar? Sattvagun, Rajagun, Tamagun. Okay, let's see. How can we diagnose that? Know your modes. Sheetal Mataji, you want to read this section, please?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Know your modes. A trained physician can both diagnose a patient's disease and predict its future symptoms. Similarly, someone who is aware of the symptoms of the three modes of nature and has studied their effects can also predict the attitudes and proclivities of a person affected by the various combination of the modes. For example, a person affected by tamas will procrastinate and tend to have a fatalistic outlook on life. I'm no good, everyone hates me, I may as well not try. A person in Rajas is driven to get ahead in the material world and constantly thinks about getting more things and strives for a better career and a more prestigious position. Even after capturing their prized goals, however, those in Rajas are not satisfied. They are prodded by Rajas to want more and more, and their determination fluctuates between hot and cold. They are driven by material desires but are inevitably frustrated whether they achieve their goals or not. For those who wish to learn the science of nature's modes in more detail, Krishna gives an even more comprehensive list of their symptoms in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.25.2 to 5. Mind and sense control, tolerance, discrimination, sticking to one's prescribed duty, truthfulness, mercy, careful study of the past and future, satisfaction in any condition, generosity, renunciation of sense gratification, faith in the spiritual master, being embarrassed by one's own improper action, charity, simplicity, Humbleness and self-satisfaction are qualities of the mode of goodness, which is sattva. Material desire, great endeavor, audacity, dissatisfaction even in gain, false pride, praying for material advancement, considering oneself different and better than others, sense gratification, rash eagerness to fight, a fondness for hearing oneself praised, the tendency to ridicule others, advertising one's own prowess, and justifying one's action by one's strength are qualities of the mode of passion, rajas. Intolerant anger, stinginess, speaking whimsically, violent hatred, living as a parasite, hypocrisy, fatigue, quarrel, lamentation, delusion, unhappiness, depression, sleeping too much, false expectations, fear, foolishness, and laziness us. When we are predominantly influenced by a particular mode of nature, we become conditioned by it and therefore seek pleasure through the objects and concepts in the same mode as if against our will. Should I continue?
Yeah, it's a lengthier topic. Did we pause or well? Anita Mataji, you want to read further?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, yes, I can read. The practice of Bhakti Yoga upgrades our conditioning so that we can develop a sattvic mindset. When our mind is in the clarity of goodness, we can reach for an even higher goal to transcend all three modes of nature and reach pure consciousness, the spiritual platform. As Krishna tells Arjuna in the Gita 14.26, one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So just by doing Bhakti Yoga, following the sadhus, we can rise above the modes of nature and come to our pure spiritual state of existence. The consequence of misplacing our attention is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.37. Isat apetasya viprayo smrit isad apetasya means to turn away from the Supreme, and viparyayo smrit means forgetting our constitutional nature as spiritual beings. In other words, as we turn away from the light of our spiritual identity in relationship with the Supreme and seek happiness independently, we find only frustration in the darkness of the lower modes of the nature.
1426, who knows? Translation is here. At once transcends material modes. Mam Chayo. Anyone? Yes, scholar.
Mam chayo vyabicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samadityetan brahma bhuyaya gopate.
Very nice. Good job. Okay, let's continue reading.
The more we allow ourselves to soak up the lower modes of material nature, the more we are affected by them, and the more life becomes agitating and bewildering. But we don't have to subject ourselves to such bedlam. Fortunately, we can reprogram our lives just as software engineers can write new codes to override dated or ineffective ones. The yoga process empowers us to override codes that impel us to think and act in ways detrimental to our well-being. Srimad Bhagavatam teaches how to live without being touched by lower material influences. How? By properly investing our attention in spiritual practices like working for a higher purpose, mantra meditation, bonding with sadhus, and hearing sacred text with rapt attention. Another way to invest our attention properly goes back to our second question: how can I be of service? As Srila Prabhupada writes, the mind should be so trained that it can be always thinking of doing good for others. Bhagavad Gita 17.16 purport: as we redirect our attention toward spiritual practices and devotional service, the binding ropes of lower energies begin to loosen. It isn't always easy to invest our attention in ways we would like, especially considering how easy it is to become even inadvertently diverted by unhealthy addictions. In the 2019 article, The Neurobiology of Addiction, published in the Annals of the New York Academy of Sciences Journal, researchers describe how addictive substances or stimuli hijack the brain's dopamine system. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is involved in the sensation of pleasure. Addiction causes the brain to release unnaturally high amounts of dopamine, which causes us to identify the object of addiction with the feeling of pleasure. How, then, can we change our habits and overcome degrading addictions? We must practice. The Bhakti Yoga text recognizes that it is our nature as sentient beings to be strongly attached to something or someone. This is the living condition. The practice of Bhakti Yoga transfers our attachments to transcendental topics, activities, and association.
We must practice which verse? Bhagavad Gita 6.35. Mind is very difficult to overcome. Arjuna says, Krishna says, yes, I agree, but here is a solution. Yes, Avani Prasad.
Asamsayam mahabaho manurdurnigraham chalam apyasena tu kontraya vairagena chagrihate.
Very nice. You see here, this is being repeated twice. We just read like a few pages back. Right? The other day we were reading Bhagavad Gita 7.16. 7.16, anyone recalls? It talks about the austerity of mind, right? Austerity of body, austerity of mind, and austerity of words. 17, 14, 15, 16. Always doing good for others. That's a great austerity of mind. Last section. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.33, the master teacher Narada presents the principle: does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing? Because we are naturally attracted to the things that bring us happiness, the process of bhakti shows us which things to transfer our attachment to for lasting pleasure. As we realize for ourselves the superior happiness we derive from the performing devotional service, we naturally give up the taste we have acquired through the association with the lower modes without artificial or unnatural restraints. For example, the process of bhakti is full of activities that people already enjoy in their lives: singing, dancing, looking at beautiful art, being with high-minded people, and tasting delicious food. In the Bhakti Yoga, all these pleasures are positively purifying because they are enjoyed in the association with the Supreme. So, in short, you don't have to give up singing, dancing, looking at beautiful things, eating, nice food. Bhakti is path of transformation of consciousness. So we can engage all these propensities in connection with the Supreme. That's the whole idea. And it takes practice. It's not easy. It takes practice to overcome these modes, right? So first we have to understand, where am I? What's my disease? We all have mix of red, blue, and yellow, goodness, passion, ignorance. So we need to understand, where am I and what I need to overcome. Being self-aware is very important. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Right? Then only we can overcome. And what is the process? Bhakti yoga will help us to overcome. So we will cover this last section. Basically, it's last few pages left on Thursday. Any thoughts, comments from today? Any questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Just the last one, where some line, right, that living entity has that tendency, or something like that, to be attracted or attached to something or someone. I think, yeah. Yeah, there was one line, something or someone. So yeah, for that point, that something or someone, if we make Krishna to be attached to, I think it will resolve all the problem.
Absolutely. And in connection with Krishna. There's a beautiful bhajan I was hearing just before this class. It's in Hindi, is Gaurvani Prabhu and Madhava's. I'll share that. Because yes, ultimately that's what Krishna consciousness is, pure happiness in connection to the Supreme Lord, in relationship with the Supreme Lord. We like to travel, yeah, we can travel to so many holy places. We like to eat, oh, so much variety of prasad, chappan bhoga, right? We can offer to Krishna. We like to associate with friends, yes, we have so many variety of people in Krishna consciousness. Right? We like to dance. Okay. I mean, the original dances like Kathak, Bharatanatyam, etc., were actually dances for the pleasure of Lord. We like to, do drama. We like to sing. We like to play instruments, musical instruments. We like to cook. We like to work for Krishna, right? So many things. Everything in connection with Krishna becomes Yukta Vairagya. And it will give us the real joy which we are looking for. So we will pause here, and I think I have given for a few of Nivedya third and Vinita 4 questions, right? So you can coordinate and pick one and try to make a presentation. Everyone can make this, just make a presentation of one question which you like the most or something. And for a few, pick a different question so you have. So in maybe one of the sessions in future, you can present all 4 of you, like a book summary or something like that. And this is a very a practical self-help book. So it's not just to read, but to contemplate and apply. The more we apply, the more we'll get. So we will pause here. Thank you so much. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna. Have a
Hare
wonderful rest of
Krishna.
your day.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare